This podcast is intended to provide information for educational purposes only and to serve as a starting point for you to have a conversation with your personal physician. Nothing stated on this podcast should be considered medical advice. Consult with your physician before undertaking or changing any treatment plan.
Welcome back. Here we are with another episode 19 actually. Gosh, we're getting up there.
We are doing it.
I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
This is Zepbound Prime.
Yes. We don't love the title. We're going to be honest with you.
If you have a better idea for the title, comment it and let us know.
We even asked ChatGPT. It wasn't very
good.
Yeah, it didn't come up with any good suggestions. So, but anyway, so Zoe, we are about to launch our weight regain program. And you know, in the past, we've really limited our practice to Arizona, but we are opening it up to people from anywhere in the country where both you and I will work together personally with the patients. And it's really initially we're focusing on people who are struggling with weight gain after bariatric surgery. And, you know, we've talked so much about this on the podcast and over the last few years, we've really developed a couple of unique approaches to prescribing GLP-1 medications, our nutrition support program, and Metabolic Reset Diet. And we're putting something together where you can sign up for this and work with us together individually, as well as through the group sessions, to get a personalized plan for addressing your weight regain and prescribe the meds and help you keep the costs low on those meds as well. We've got some ways that we're able to do that, and we'll work with you together to help you get this weight off and put you on a better path. We're really deeply committed to, as we say, no bariatric patient left behind, right? So if you feel like your surgery, you didn't get what you wanted out of it and are looking for a plan, we're putting something like that together. I'm not sure what time we'll have that in place versus when this is going to launch, but it should be fairly soon. And we'll certainly make a big announcement and describe it on the podcast once it's officially live. So we're excited about that. Yeah. I think that's a long time coming. We put a lot of energy into that.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to be such a valuable resource for, people all over the country, podcast listeners who are, who feel aligned and related to with what we're talking about on the podcast, but didn't feel like maybe there was a place for them to join us. So We're really excited about that.
Absolutely. So this is different. Zoe is doing the In the News segment. So Zoe, why don't you talk to us about our news article?
Yeah. So actually, Dr. Weiner sent this to me. I couldn't open it originally, but we got a screenshot and I just thought it was so fascinating. So this comes to us from National Geographic. The title of the article is What Weightlifting Does to Your Body and Mind. And so we talk a lot about the benefits of weightlifting, but specifically on musculature and metabolism. And this article does a beautiful job of digging into all of those, physical benefits, the improvement in type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, weight management, of course, high quality sleep, but also the benefits that weight training has on your mind. And in fact, a decrease in anxiety and depression. And my thought on this is, and I'm sure so many people can relate to this, of when you're feeling depressed and you're feeling anxious, kind of the last thing you want to do is get out of bed or go move your body. Right. And in fact, that can be even more powerful than medications in some points. So taking that as the sign almost to, okay, this might not be what feels second nature, but going and moving my body and having that positive cognitive benefit can do so much good for benefit of mental health.
Yeah. There's something too about just pushing that weight around. Just like, I'm angry, I'm anxious, I'm frustrated, I'm depressed, whatever it is, and I'm just going to push away, and you get those endorphin releases. And I mean, I'll tell you, my wife has figured this out. Both of us are weightlifters. I think you do it a little more successfully than I do, but we both really enjoy weightlifting. And my wife will say to me, listen, Matt, you're driving me crazy. Go lift some weights or go do something, and she has long for a while recognized how it changes my mood. Yeah. I've recognized it as well. And I know, if I have a stressful job, of course, as a surgeon. And so there's certainly times when I'm stressed out and frustrated you never have that same level of frustration, anger, anxiety, or whatever it is when you walk out of the gym as you did when you walked into the gym. It works every time.
What is the saying? The only workout you regret is the one you didn't do.
Yeah.
But we were actually talking about this today in our emotional eating and stress management support group. And so both of the people who were on there were talking about their main trigger from an emotional eating episode over the weekend derived from stress. So we dug deeper into how can we better manage stress, and both of them, unpromptedly by me, mentioned that exercise helps them with that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's underrated for a lot of people who it doesn't feel second nature to, but thinking about how you feel after doing the exercise instead of what it is doing for my weight loss, because that shift is huge.
Yeah. And I think the important part of this article too is that weightlifting, especially as you age, may actually be more valuable than cardiovascular exercise. Right? Cardiovascular exercise has gotten the attention because the science is out there that regular cardiovascular exercise can reduce your risk of heart attacks, but it actually takes a lot, 75 to 150 minutes a week. 150 minutes of cardiovascular exercise is 30 minutes 5 times a week. That's quite a bit. And so we've always kind of looked at that as the health benefit, but this article is pointing out that there may actually be more health benefits from weightlifting.
Right. And also because not only strengthening of the muscles, but strengthening of the bones to help prevent injury if, as aging with falls and that sort of thing as well.
So this is a perfect segue into our patient story, Lori, who's really, really embraced exercise and has been incredibly successful. And she's got something really big planned for in the works. So let's hear from Lori. Well, we want to welcome Lori to the show. Lori is one of our gastric bypass patients. She comes to us right now from Montana, right? Lori, is that where you're located?
I am in Montana.
She came down to Tucson for her surgery, and she's done really remarkably well. So Lori I'll tell you my little thoughts about Lori from the beginning. She kind of came down and she was like, we're going to do this surgery. We're going to do a gastric bypass. I have acid reflux. This is what I want done. And how am I going to do this? How's this going to work? And was like, she was ready for surgery when she came. Was that accurate? Is that where your head was?
That is accurate. Yes, very much so.
So what brought you to that moment? So I think my sense was that you had done a tremendous amount of research before we met. So what was that research? What brought you to the decision that you finally made, and what got you to that spot?
So I'd done a lot of research, and I'd also done a lot of work, as in like head work.
Yeah.
And of course, been on every diet under the sun. But what really had happened is I started having gastric reflux probably 6 months before I came to see you, and it was really bad enough that I ended up in the emergency room on Christmas Eve before I came to see you.
Oh, wow.
And and so then I had an endoscopy, and the doctor there in Tucson that did it, I said, well, what can make this go away? And he said, well, gastric bypass or lose weight. And I said, right. Okay. Believe
Thanks
it or not,
for that.
I don't sit around. Yeah, I don't sit around eating bonbons. I've been working out. I've been, trying to lose weight. My body will not release weight. And so then I said, because I thought about, I'd looked into this before, but I always thought to myself, I wasn't going to do gastric bypass as just another diet. It wasn't going to be another diet quick fix for Lori. And so when he told me that, I said, well, who do you recommend then? And he gave me your name. So I said, all right. So then I, of course, checked into this more, and then I came to see you. But at that point, I was pretty much thinking, I'm going to do this. But when I talked to you, I really thought so.
Yeah. So you had really severe acid reflux. And I think that's one of the most important decision-making points I look for with patients, because acid reflux is really it's the Achilles heel of the sleeve gastrectomy. And we see, a number of patients developing severe acid reflux. I think this morning I had clinic. I think I saw 2 patients who were in the process of converting from a sleeve to a gastric bypass. And a gastric bypass is, without question, the single best treatment for acid reflux. It's better than the Nissen fundoplication, which is kind of the standard surgery that is designed to treat acid reflux. A gastric bypass, although it was originally designed as an acid reflux surgery, actually, really hasn't been used in that. And if someone walked in my office with just acid reflux and not obesity, no insurance company would allow for us to perform that surgery. But it works like a charm. You have, I would assume, 0 acid reflux now. 0.
And that was one of the things. The other thing I had going on, I also had non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I was pre-diabetic. And I was, of course, over 100 pounds overweight. And that was one of the big things when I met with you and you told me, the difference between the sleeve and the gastric bypass. And you said, literally overnight, this will probably go away. And I had a hiatal hernia too, and you repaired that. So, and literally it went away and it's never come back. It did.
So what was your starting weight and how much do you weigh now?
Starting weight, I think when I came, my highest weight ever was 302. My starting weight when I came to see you, I think I was like 192.
292.
Now I'm 183.4.
So you have, from your highest weight, you're about 120 pounds.
120
and from your
pounds.
Surgical weight, you're 110 pounds. How much did we predict for you?
You predicted right around between 90 and 100.
Okay. So,
and at the time, I thought if I could lose 90 pounds, hallelujah.
I want to ask you about the head work. You said you did a lot of head work to get to the place where you were ready for that. So talk us through what that head work was and what those kind of that process looked like for you.
Okay. So over the years, I mean, I've done various programs and there's some other, things that are out there. And through some of those programs, there's some really good materials. But really what it comes down to is in order to change your actions, they really have to start with changing your mind. And I think the biggest thing was all or nothing thinking as far as, if I blow this diet, then I'm, here I go. And I'll start again on Monday. All those old diet mindsets. And so starting to break those down and go, no, it's not all or nothing. And it starts with, let's just change one thing. And so I started doing that. Or like if I caught myself with this thinking of, I'll never be blank. Stop. No, let's reframe that. And so change that thought and say, this might be difficult, but I can do this to get me to blank. Those kind of thoughts.
So powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us about what you're planning. You've got some really interesting plans coming up.
I do. So my son has always been an athlete. He's 25 and he's an ultra trail runner. He does the 100-mile races in the mountains and he does all over the place. Up here, he did one in Arizona and he's that person. And I thought, Wesley, you're crazy. What are you doing? So he's crazy enough that he's convinced me of this. So
it's contagious.
Last year, there's a race that's in the Bighorn Mountains in Wyoming, and you start out at 7,400 feet. It goes up to 8,100 feet. And there's an 18-mile, there's a 32-mile, a 50-mile, and a 100-mile.
Oh, my God.
Last year, Wesley did the 50-mile, and he got third place. So a friend of mine and my trainer and a doctor up here, they both did the 32-mile race last year, and another friend was with him. And so she said, Lori, I saw the people that were doing this 18-mile race. We could do this. And I said, you're crazy. No, we can't. And she said, yes, we could. We don't have to run it. We can walk it and we can do this. So she planted the seed a few months ago. And I said, all right, I will do nothing ever to undo my surgery. Never. I mean, this is sacred to me. So I said, the only way I will even consider doing this is if Dr. Weiner says I can do this.
And I said, hell yeah.
You did.
Absolutely. This is why you have the surgery.
Exactly. So there's a limited number of spots for these races. And so you have to get up at like 5 a.m. and hop online to register when registration opens. So Wesley had called me. He's like, Mom, registration is like the next day. Are you going to sign up for this race? I said, I got to get a hold of Dr. Weiner. I got to make sure. And so then I sent you the message. I said, can I do this? Your response was absolutely, but do not get hurt.
That's always my response.
Yep. And you said, as long as you train for this and you can do at least 12 miles before that race, you can do it and do not get hurt again.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. So we got on bright and early and my doctor, my trainer, my friend and myself, we all got on, boom. And we're doing the 18-mile race.
When is that?
It is June 14th and 15th. So we'll be the 15th. The 100-miler starts the 14th, but it's June 15th.
Wow.
Yep.
And actually, Lori, you're one of our peer leaders. So talk to us about how you've been using your peer group as a space for race training accountability. If you're enjoying our podcast, please consider joining our online nutrition program. It's just like the podcast, but you get to join in the show. Dr. Weiner, myself, and our peer leaders host over 25 support groups weekly over Zoom and cover all the same topics that you enjoy listening to every week. Whether you're just focusing on nutrition using the Pound of Cure approach, are taking a GLP-1 medication, or have had or are planning to have bariatric surgery, we can help you maximize your weight loss efforts. To join our affordable program for unlimited access to our group nutrition sessions, go to www.poundofcureweightloss.com/nutrition. You can also check the show notes for the link. We hope to see you on Zoom soon.
So really what we're doing is a lot, and maybe it's like a magnet. The people that are coming to my group are usually people that want to get exercising, have never exercised and want to start exercising, or there's a roadblock to what's preventing them from doing it again. And so it's kind of like, I should call it the squat club, because sometimes I'll say, okay, let's do 5 squats. Give me 5 squats every day. And I want you to text me when you do it. And so one gal, she said, I can do it. And she said, I don't know what the block is, but I'll do it. So she did it. And then the next day I'm doing 10. And then pretty soon, within 2 weeks, she was doing like 30 squats a day.
That's rough.
I think she does 40 a day right now.
Really?
Yeah. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yep. And I said, okay, well, let's add something else into this. How about let's do wall push-ups? Let's just do 5 of those every day. Or it just depends on where they're at. I encourage people, because after my surgery, within a couple of weeks or a week or so, I was training, but I wasn't training by any athletic means. My training consisted of a can of vegetables and sitting in a chair like this, doing 5 of those.
But that counts.
Yeah.
It counts. And that's what I try to help with our group, is every little bit matters. And I tell them, believe me, I am living proof of this. Absolutely.
If anyone out there is listening and kind of really feeling like, overwhelmed by your obesity, overwhelmed by your body, overwhelmed by your health, it's important to know it doesn't have to be that way. Change is possible. And I think right here, Lori, you're showing that, beautifully. And not only that, but you're supporting other people who are starting to make those changes. So for anybody out there who is in the process of trying to take on a challenge, and 18-mile race with 700 vertical feet, like, I love it, but you do not have to do that to join your group.
No.
Let's be clear. It can be walk a 5K. It can be a 1-mile fun run. It can be any.
It can be 5 squats a day.
It can be 5 squats a day. Absolutely. Yeah. And so I think, so Lori, you've really created this great place for people where they can join and they can participate in these types of activities and find some accountability, find some motivation from someone who's been there and done that. And, I really love that you do that. I love that you've added that to our program. I think it's so valuable and so unique. Well, Lori, it's so great to have you in our practice, in our nutrition program. I think our patients are so lucky to have you and have access to this unique resource. And we love working with you, and we look forward to continuing this and seeing your success in June when you conquer that mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, you'll get that video. I did it.
Yeah. Patients and non-patients, right? We are welcoming anybody who wants to join the nutrition program and join in on your peer group and see you in there. And we're just really grateful to have you as a part of our team. And thanks for sharing your story, Lori.
Absolutely. Thank you. I say thank you to you guys all the time. Absolutely. So
well, we're grateful we're grateful for you. All right.
I just love her.
Oh, she's amazing.
Yeah, and so grateful that she's one of our peer leaders.
Absolutely.
So,
I
really
can't wait to see her pictures from the top of the mountain.
A Rocky pose on top of the mountain.
Yeah. So anyway, so good to have Lori.
Yeah. So I want to talk today in our nutrition segment. Although it is a nutrition segment, we know that reaching and maintaining a healthy body weight goes so much deeper than just nutrition.
Right.
Obviously, that's what this whole thing is about.
Right.
We need to take a holistic approach. And a piece of that puzzle is sleep hygiene. We mentioned how in the National Geographic news article, weightlifting can help with sleep quality. And I know so many people struggle with sleep and getting enough of it and getting enough quality sleep because of so many factors, right? Stress, our busy lives, screen times, etc. So today I did actually want to share just a few quick tips to improve that sleep hygiene. So as we were talking about, weightlifting is one of them, which is great.
Yeah.
Another one actually has to do with limiting screen time. So I know in theory, we've heard it, we know it, like I get it. But thinking about what that blue light, so whether you're looking at your phone, your iPad, your TV, that blue light is very activating to your brain. It's telling your brain, we're in information gathering mode. It's time to be activated. We are absorbing. And that makes it really challenging. Maybe your eyes feel tired. So I kind of want to close your eyes after staring at a screen, but your brain is awake and it can really impact your ability to fall asleep. So limiting screen times, ideally longer, but starting with 30 minutes before bed and replacing that activity with something that cues your brain that it's time for sleeping. So whether that's journaling, reading, meditating, maybe a skincare routine, a warm bath, whatever it is, we need to create routine and consistency to give your body that cue that it's time to go to sleep.
Yeah.
One other tip, I have a ton. I'm not going to spill all the beans right now because I could talk for a long time. But the other one is not about what you're doing before bed. It's about what you're doing first thing when you wake up and trying to get natural sunlight as soon as you are able to. Sunlight in your eyes when you're up or when the sun is up helps to reinforce your body's natural circadian rhythm. So when the sun goes down, your body naturally starts feeling tired.
So should you sleep with your blinds open?
Well, that's an interesting question because ideally we're sleeping in a cold or cool, dark room. Right. And so maybe in the winter time, having the blinds open is fine, but I don't know. Even with my blinds closed, it is light in my room as soon as that starts coming up. So I've gotten a sleep mask, actually. I wake up in the middle of the night to go pee. And if I know the sun is going to be up before I want to wake up, I put on that face mask middle of the night and go back to sleep. And it works wonders.
So get the natural exposure as soon as you wake, but you don't necessarily need to wake when it gets light out.
Right.
Yeah. I think another thing I noticed this just the other night. I was trying to go to sleep and like the amount of lights you have in your room and the amount like when you go to sleep, it should ideally be like pitch black, super dark, but you've got your computer on in the corner and then your phone is in sleep mode, but not quite. And there's like maybe a little light there. And then you've got that little night light or thing that your outlet, that has a little orange switch on it that has a light. Yeah. And so when you look around your room, there's still so much light, even as we go to sleep. It really takes a conscientious effort to get that room as dark as possible. But I think it's important to get it that room as dark as you can. Yeah, we could probably have a whole episode.
Oh, I'm sleep. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this, but I'm gonna stop so we can move on to the economics of obesity.
Yeah. All right. So this is where our kind of not so great title for the show comes from. It comes from Lilly Pharmacy. I've kind of talked in the past about Lilly Direct, and I have a lot of issues with a pharma company partnering with a medical group to, even if it's, they're independent, they still are dependent on referrals. And that telehealth group is growing very rapidly. It's hard to get an appointment with them. Clearly, they have an influx of patients. That has economic value. And so when you have a pharma company providing economic value in any form, whether it's a contractual relationship where they're writing a check, or it's just providing something that helps that company or that practice grow, there's going to be a conflict of interest. Of course, they'll say there's not, they'll do their best, but it's impossible to eliminate that. And so Lilly Direct has another component, which is a pharmacy component. So they've partnered with TruePill and now most recently Amazon Pharmacy. Now, this is actually not live on March 19th at the time we're filming this, but they are going to put this out there where you can go through Lilly and they actually have a pharmacy and a fax line and everything you can send the prescriptions to, and they'll either parse it out to Amazon or to this company TruePill, and they can help you get Zepbound. Now, part of me hates this because I really don't like the pharma industry working outside of their space. There should be pharmacies and there should be pharma companies, and the two should have to negotiate, and there should be some independence, and it adds some checks and balances to the whole system. However, I also have to recognize that for a lot of our patients, this is probably a really good thing. And for me, as much as I have this kind of these moral thoughts about healthcare and how we should be unbiased and independent, I also, we serve our patients in the end. And the patient comes first. And so if this is good for you, we're going to do it. And we have sent prescriptions over to Lilly Pharmacy. We really, I think, just sent it over a few days ago. And it won't go through Amazon yet because it's live, but it will go through TruePill. But we can use this pharmacy. I think there's some real advantages to this. The first advantage is that we're not going to have these coupon issues that we're seeing. The coupons in the pharmacies, there are pharmacies out there who are losing money every time they fill a prescription of Zepbound with the coupon. And so what's happening is they're saying, well, no, I'm sorry, this coupon doesn't look right to me, and I get it. Like, who wants to run a business to lose money?
Right.
So they're putting a lot of friction and obstacles in the way, preventing people from cashing in their coupons. And okay, I understand where that's coming from. We're not going to see that with this Lilly Direct pharmacy. I think also they're going to have better control of the stock. They're with this direct relationship with the pharma industry. My guess is they'll have stock more so than your local drugstore. And so because of all the shortages that we're seeing, this may be a place where people can reliably get the medication. Now, we haven't seen a ton of shortages with Zepbound. We are seeing it, of course, with Mounjaro now that they kind of shifted all their production from Mounjaro to Zepbound. So we are seeing shortages with Mounjaro, but this is really focused on Zepbound, the weight loss version of the drug. So we are looking at this, and I do think it's a good thing. I like that Amazon is kind of entering into this because
got a lot of pull.
They have a lot of pull. They also have, why do we love Amazon? We love it for two reasons, right? They've mastered shipping, right? I mean, it's crazy. You sometimes order something in the morning and it's there at night. Yeah. And the second thing they've mastered is prices, right? When you get something on Amazon, how often do you feel like, man, I really got ripped off by Amazon? You never do, right? You always feel like, hey, I got a good price. This is a very fair price for what I got. And so Amazon's kind of mastered that pricing. And there's so much space for reducing the price. We talked about the PBM sucking 20, 30%, adding 20 to 30% of the cost and adding nothing. Amazon will not tolerate that. And they have the clout and the ability to potentially squeeze some of these people out. They're also not owned by an insurance company, right? So we've got Aetna owning CVS and of course Caremark, their PBM. And so now we have this kind of big group that has a history of keeping prices low, entering into this space. I think this is a good thing. If anybody out there has received a prescription either from Amazon once it's live or through Lilly Direct, let us know how that went. Share it with people. If we're not kind of sharing our experiences, I think it's going to be hard for all of us to navigate this space. And it's only by 100 people trying something that we're going to figure out what the best path is. I do think this may be a good thing. So let's move into our questions. And we've got Sierra on the line here, and she's going to talk to us about our user questions. These come to us from social media. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us and drop them on any of our social media channels, and we'll pick them up. And if they're a good fit, we'll answer them in the podcast.
All right. First question is from Anna from YouTube, and it's on the video Eating After Bariatric Surgery, A Guide to the First Month. Is it common to get SIBO with either of these surgeries?
Okay, so SIBO stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And so the idea, and SIBO is a little bit of a vague space in medicine. It's not quite as diagnosable as, say, an ulcer or an internal hernia. The symptoms are vague. It's kind of this abdominal pain or dyspepsia or nausea or sometimes diarrhea. It's these GI symptoms. And so the idea is when you divide from a straight line anatomy, which is what we're all born with, to a Y-shaped anatomy, which is like a Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, a duodenal switch. A SADI is not a Y-shaped anatomy, but there is still some disruption in the flow of food through the GI tract. That bacteria can overgrow, that our microbiome and our small intestine has bacteria in it. That's normal. We need that bacteria, but it can overgrow. You can get the wrong type. And the idea is that a course of antibiotics can help reduce that bacteria burden and help reverse some of the symptoms. And over the years, I've certainly have tried this on a number of patients and with some modest success. And you can't look at an anecdotal success as proof of the disease and proof of the treatment, because sometimes people have symptoms, sometimes those symptoms go away. Just because you gave an antibiotic doesn't mean it was the antibiotic that caused those symptoms to go away. So SIBO is not something I really deal with on a regular basis, but it is out there and it is something that people are concerned about. And it really is unique to Y-shaped anatomy, which is really a gastric bypass or a duodenal switch. But no, it's not common. It's not something I'm dealing with. I think it's probably overstated, and it's just a way for us to put a label on these kind of vague symptoms that may come from poor eating, that may come from dysmotility of the intestine, that could come from bacteria. We don't know, but we're labeling it. But I think thankfully it's not a major problem that a lot of patients are coming to us seeking treatment for. So we talk to us about what foods we can eat.
Well, I want to talk about, so if we're trying to cultivate a healthy and beneficial gut microbiome, we not only need to think about and discuss probiotic foods, but also prebiotic foods.
Interesting.
So prebiotic foods are basically the food, the fuel for the bacteria. So probiotic foods are good bacteria for our gut. Prebiotic foods are going to be fiber-rich foods. So you don't need to go out and buy a prebiotic supplement, as many supplement companies have made because they want to capitalize on it. Go eat fruits and vegetables, okay? That's all you need to do. And then for probiotic foods, the healthy, good bacteria to help support a productive gut microbiome, going to be things with active live cultures. Greek yogurt's a great one for this. You can do maybe a kombucha, but as long as you find one that doesn't have any added sugar. Kimchi's good for this, sauerkraut. So finding those fermented foods that have those active live cultures to give your body those good bacteria to support your gut microbiome.
Yeah. I think when you think about fiber, a good example of fiber is cows. So cows eat tons and tons of grass. We can't eat grass and survive. So how is it cows are able to survive on grass and we are not? Well, we have to look at what fiber is. So fiber is just a string of carbohydrate molecules, of sugar molecules, essentially, strung end to end to end to end, very much like carbs that we kind of want to avoid, like in pasta and bread. The big difference between fiber and the carbs that we see in pasta and bread, like amylose and amylopectin, is the type of bond. So our enzymes have the ability to cleave certain types of bonds, but not others. And so fiber is a string of carbohydrate molecules that we can't cleave. We can't cut those bonds, so it essentially passes through us undigested. Cows have those enzymes and can break down that fiber into sugar molecules and then use that sugar for life and survival. Bacteria have those same enzymes, and so they can break down that fiber into carbohydrates and then use it for food as well. And so prebiotics are critical, probably more important than the probiotics, right? The bacteria are there. They're going to be there.
And if you give them the right food, then they can
grow.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great point. So if you feel like you're struggling with SIBO, maybe try some prebiotic foods. Yeah. Great question.
All right. Next question is from Stephanie from our website. Do you prescribe compounded medications?
So no, we do not prescribe compounded medications. So let's first talk about what compounded medications are. So compounded medications are when you typically see, and it's often on Facebook or Instagram or some social media channel or something where it's like, tirzepatide or semaglutide. They always use a generic term and they say, oh, it's, if you purchase from us, and it's usually a reduced price, it's only cash, no insurance is ever going to cover this. And so these medications have a fairly sketchy origin. And so I wanted, when this came out, I was like, let's figure this out. Let's see what's the deal with these things. Is this something we can offer? This is early stages of it. We didn't really know what we were dealing with. And so I kind of reached out and I talked to actually one of our patients who had found something on Reddit, and she had found some place and she gave me the information, and I reached out to them. And honestly, it was like they were trying to sell me Bitcoin. I mean, it was really some very sketchy, like, oh, if you make a payment through Alibaba, then I'll ship it to you. It got really sketchy really quickly. And that's where these medications are coming from. They are not being manufactured in the United States. They are not being run through the FDA. There is really very little oversight. Now, is it possible that they're making good medications? It is possible. It's also possible that there's no medication in what you're buying, and it's possible that there's something toxic or dangerous in those medications.
And you have no way of knowing.
You have no way of knowing. And also, you could be getting it from one place, and then all of a sudden, you don't know what's happening there. They could be like, hey, listen, we're out of supplies. We don't have any of this chemical we need to make the medication anymore. So let's just ship some saline. Let's just dilute it down. So there's just zero oversight for this. You're never going to get compounded medications made in the United States because it's against the patent. A medication factory is a huge thing. It's $100 million thing. Nobody's going to, and if you produce something you're not allowed to produce, you can get sued and lose your whole factory, and it's very, very business damaging. So anyway, these medications come from a place that we don't know where they're from. And patient safety is our number one goal. I'm a surgeon. So surgeons we are indoctrinated in safety of the patient from the beginning. If it risks a patient's life, you have to do everything you can to minimize it. And so compound medications don't work for us as a practice. There's also a lot of lawsuits out there from Eli Lilly and from Novo Nordisk where they're suing the physician practices who are prescribing them or selling them. So we don't want to get sued by these billion-dollar pharma companies, so we don't sell them for that reason as well. And then I think also you have to recognize that these medications are the people selling these medications are profiting quite significantly from them. When we write a prescription for Zepbound or Wegovy, we don't get a kickback. That's against the law. We send it to whatever pharmacy you want, and that payment for that medication is between you and the pharmacy. We have no part of it. We don't get any medication. So you know that you're getting the drug that we think is best for you, not the one that we make the most money selling.
Right.
And so,
because at the end of the day, we're a medical practice, not trying to make as much money as possible.
Yes. The Hippocratic Oath, first, do no harm. I have found that advice so helpful with so many difficult decisions in my life. And I think when I look at compounded medications, looking at that statement, it just, you can't,
right.
Yeah, it doesn't sync. It doesn't sync. So, or what do the kids say? It doesn't track. It doesn't track.
Kids say that?
Yeah. And probably adults too. Yeah, so it doesn't track. All right, our last question, Sierra.
Okay, this one is from Raphael from our website. What do you think about monk fruit sweeteners? Also, is true lemon water enhancer a good option to add to flavor water?
Okay, well, I'm going to answer the second part of the question first because it's pretty simple, and absolutely. There's only one ingredient in true lemon, which is lemons. It's dehydrated. I don't know what part of the lemons they use, but it's fine. It's great, shelf stable. Keep it in your purse, keep it in your bag, add it to your water. Beautiful. Especially if it helps you drink more water. Love it. So let's talk about monk fruit sweeteners. Monk fruit sweeteners are a class of sweeteners known as non-nutritive sweeteners. Right. So artificial sweeteners are non-nutritive sweeteners, but monk fruit and stevia are not necessarily artificial sweeteners because they are derived from a plant, right? Monk fruit is derived from a Chinese plant. Stevia is derived from the stevia plant. But what you get is not a plant. You still have a form of processed food. Stevia is a white powder. That's processed, whether it comes from a plant or not. Did I tell you that I actually last summer bought a stevia plant? Yeah, it died, so I never got to use it. But same thing goes for monk fruits. In moderation, just like anything, it's not black and white, as we've talked about before. And if having a little bit of monk fruit every now and then helps you stay away from sugar, great. I would recommend trying to reduce your reliance on it as much as possible. But ultimately, it's a non-nutritive sweetener that is potentially better than the artificial sweeteners. What's your thought?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if you separate the carbohydrate from the sweet taste, then it kind of causes a lot of what you call it the boy who cried wolf, right? Yeah. And so it just really disrupts our ability to metabolize carbohydrates in a normal fashion. And so whether it comes from monk fruit, whether it comes from stevia, whether it comes from sucralose, they're way more similar than they are different. I do agree that these are a little more natural than the sucralose, but I don't know that makes a huge difference. I think the important thing is, and you've talked about this so many times, is that there's a lot of more natural options. There's the spa water that you talk about, slicing up fruit and putting it into the water. There's herbal tea. And these are, I think, probably, in my mind, these are the ideal ways to flavor water if you don't want to be drinking plain water.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, another great episode.
That wraps
us up. 19, next episode 20.
It's going to be a big one.
Yeah.
You better come back and listen.
All right.
Why don't you just go ahead and share this podcast if it was interesting to you, if there was somebody that in your life that you think would benefit from something we talked about. We would be really grateful for you to share the podcast, spread the word, and know that you're not alone on this fight for weight loss.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Pound of Cure Weight Loss podcast. We'd love to hear from you on your favorite social media platform. Check us out at A Pound of Cure. If you're in Arizona and would like to become a patient in our practice, please call our office to schedule either an in-person or telemedicine appointment.